Welcome to Cryptic Accounts, the podcast by paranoid people for paranoid people. I'm your host for the week, Dennis Cheney, joined as always with Patrick Ryan. How are you doing, Patrick?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. And this week on the show, we have David Icke and the New Age Gnostic phenomenon, I guess I'll call it.
Oh, we're going specific in on David Icke is a very famous UFO,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know what you categorize him as. What is his official title?
Did you call him a UFO, I guess?
No, like a ufologist. I mean,
oh, okay.
I just say a UFO. I meant UFO like researcher.
He's a very famous
Maybe that
UFO.
that thought went out in my brain, but it didn't come out in words. There's not a full connection.
We'll get into him in a minute. I wanted to do like a primer on him, but I don't think that's possible.
He's a very interesting guy.
Yeah, so I'll talk about what the sources were as we go through, but it ended up going in some, like always, I couldn't stay on topic and ended up just going in these weird directions. So
it happens. That's this show. That's what we do here.
But we were going to announce from last week's episode.
Oh, yeah.
Your Mars episode, a million
years
ago.
So last week on the 1984 exploration of Mars, we were talking about locations that the CIA had somebody remote view on Mars a million
Not
years
knowing
ago.
It was Mars.
Yeah, they didn't know it was Mars. They were just told, anyway. They didn't know where they were going. They were just given coordinates. And you got to listen to the episode to understand how all that was working. But when he was there, the viewer was seeing pyramid structures and stuff, and I didn't put it all together, and we finally were able to figure out how to look at a map of Mars correctly. And those places where they were looking, or had him looking, a million years ago, or a million BC, I'm sorry, were the exact places where we believe there's remnant shapes are covered over pyramids, essentially.
Yeah, he saw a bunch of different stuff, but one of them was like 9 degrees north, 40 degrees east, something like that. But
yeah,
whatever it was, we looked it up. We figured out how to work the map, and it was the face, the famous face.
Yep.
And it was next to a structure with what some people believe are 3 pyramids, which is a pretty good guess if you're remote viewing. And
you can find, like I said, go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear us we role played it, actually, the remote viewer and the controller that's directing him around. But you can also go to the website where we put all the source information, crypticaccounts.com. And under the sources tab, you can go to the link that's got the CIA disclosed document that was the transcript from that session.
So that was exciting stuff.
So it's a crazy thing to think about if you didn't listen to that episode. It was crazy if you heard it, but I don't know how you argue with that.
That was what, either that or it's some sort of, I don't know. It would have had to have been fiction. Somebody would have had to have written it as pure fiction, knowing where those things were.
It's on the CIA's website. No, you go to the CIA. I downloaded it from the CIA vault.
I know. I'm saying the CIA would have had to just written something fake and put it in the vault. Like, it doesn't make any sense unless it's real. Also, that particular remote viewer,
the guy's still alive that viewed it. Like, he's talked about it and stuff. Like, we know it happened with him. I guess you could say he potentially made it all up, but then you can discredit almost anything in the things we're looking into in that way. Really,
it's in the files somehow. Yeah, it's really weird. So
they
was
kept
one of my
that thing
favorite
going
episodes.
for over 20 years. So they definitely thought, even though in the end they said there was nothing going on, they definitely thought something might be happening.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes, actually, just because it was so unexpected.
So that was something that I just wanted. I thought we both thought we should point out to everybody that if you had listened to that and you didn't go figure out how to use maps on Mars correctly,
And full disclosure, some of them we looked up, we couldn't see anything, but
that's true too.
Yeah, but he was also looking a million years ago. So,
well,
let's get into David Icke.
This
is going to be interesting. I don't think this is going to go in quite the direction people think, because it didn't go in the direction I was thinking.
Okay.
What do you know? Well, let's just start. Alien, reptilian invasions, blood sucking.
Oh, okay.
Okay, blood-sucking, pedophilic Illuminati agents acting as totalitarian world leaders, trans-dimensional alien humans interbreeding to support a program of cosmic imperialism. This is not the X-Files episode, nor is it some undiscovered Philip K. Dick or H.P. Lovecraft novel, nor is it the latest Hollywood science fiction spectacle. Rather, it is the real-life and ever-evolving conspiracy theory of the self-proclaimed most controversial speaker and author in the world, David Icke.
I'm not getting a feel-good episode this week, am I?
I don't know what this is.
Every week I'm like, this week I'm going to feel good about things. Dennis is going to cheer me up, and then it never happens.
So I decided rather than try to like read and understand everything he's ever written, I would read like
a lot.
Yeah, there's like 20 some books or more. I decided I would read like some academic papers on him, which is where I started, that like review his work, and that's where his first sources come from. And so this is just like a third party researcher's view of him. Icke, a one-time British soccer star turned BBC sports personality turned UK Green Party spokesman, is now today the most infinite proponent of what we call the reptoid hypothesis, the idea that alien lizards conspiratorially control the Earth and with it human destiny.
I wondered if this is where we're going. Okay.
David Icke was born in 1952 to a working class family in Leicester, in Midlands of England. Upon leaving school at age 15, he embarked upon a career as a goalkeeper.
School at age 15?
Yeah, apparently.
Like he just quit school. Like, I've learned enough. What year is this?
It would have been 1967.
60s?
Yeah, 1967.
You don't hear about that as much in that era.
You don't. I feel like he was also a sports star, though, so he might have been.
Oh, okay. So he's already got a sports career going at 15?
Yeah, he started a career as a goalkeeper for
like
Coventry City. Yeah.
Man.
And he was a professional soccer player until he retired in 1973 at the age of 21 after being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay. I thought you just meant like, I've worked hard enough. It's been a hard life. I'm at 21 now. I think I'm just going to hang it all up and coast for the next 60 years. I'm like,
this guy just kind of does whatever he wants is what I'm figuring out.
I mean, based on what you've told me so far, it sounds like it. That's awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, not the rheumatoid arthritis. That sounds terrible. I hear that's not great.
He then began working as a sports reporter, which eventually led to a job as a sports program person at BBC, including co-presenting the launch of their innovative and high-profile breakfast television show, Breakfast Time, in 1983.
That sounds fun.
He was also a national speaker for the UK Green Party from 1988 until 1991. So he's all over the place. And it was in 1990 that he came out and said that he wouldn't pay a certain tax. And he got prosecuted for evading this tax. And eventually he paid it, but he got fired from the BBC because of it. And there were, quote, suggestions that they had been forewarned that he was planning to go public with his recent, quote, spiritual experiences. He described feeling an overwhelming sense of presence accompanying him through his time at the Green Party. In an often repeated story, Icke claimed that during a hotel stay, he said to the presence, "For goodness sake, if you are there, contact me. This is driving me up a wall." In 1990, he visited a psychic named Betty Shine, and after coming across her book, Mind to Minden, at a railway bookshop, although ostensibly seeking relief from his arthritis, which seems like a weird reason to go to a psychic.
I mean, yeah, that's not a common thing that you hear people doing as a response to pain. But I guess if you've tried everything else, maybe.
This is not a common man. So although he was ostensibly seeking relief for his arthritis, he claims that from the beginning, he was also attempting to contact the presence.
Okay, that feels more like the reason, to be honest with you. I hate to be right now, but that feels like maybe the reason.
It makes more sense. Oh yeah, that makes way more sense. On his third
That,
visit,
you're like, I went to see a psychic about this presence that I feel around me. Then I'm like, okay, well, I mean, you're making rational decisions about this, obviously.
I mean, I was just seeing my psychic for arthritis.
I mean, I'm gonna see my psychic about my arthritis. Should I ever develop arthritis? That's probably what I'm gonna do.
Where I'm going first.
Yeah.
On his third visit, Shine claimed to make contact with the presence, despite Icke saying nothing in regard. She described the presence as, quote, Chinese in appearance with the name Wang Yi Li, and he spoke and he said, Socrates is with me. Wang Yi Li then made a number of prophecies. He said there will be great earthquakes that will come as a warning to the human race. They will occur in places that have never experienced them. He is a healer who is here to heal the earth and will be world famous, he said of Icke. He will face enormous opposition, but he will always be there to protect. But we will always be here to protect him. Sometimes he will say things and wonder where they came from. They will be our words. He will write 5 books in 3 years. Politics is not for him. He's too spiritual. Politics is very unspiritual and will make him unhappy. One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that will change the world. So there's like this weird, I don't know what you call it, like a spirit guide.
I've somehow like not heard that part of his story. Like I knew, like it was a little bit of a refresher. I haven't heard it in a while. I don't feel like I've ever heard the psychic part.
The like ascendant master visiting them during a psychic.
And I definitely hadn't heard that part.
No, I had never heard that.
Okay.
So although his later works tend to downplay this theosophical connection, his early works state explicitly that he believes himself to be guided by a group of entities, which include Wang Yi Li, Jesus, and Rekorsi.
Do we know who Wang Yi Li is?
I have no idea who Wang Li is. Okay. I didn't look it up. He kind of just stops talking about it after a while.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot of questions that are going to come up when you're talking about Wang Yi Li, because I mean, probably the same question I just came up with. It's just, who is Wang Yi Li? A quick Google search turned up nothing.
Yeah, I do. Just some random unnamed ascendant master.
So what was the other name you said?
Jesus.
Well, I knew that one. Rekorsi.
Yeah. Rekorsi.
However you say that. We know I'm not the pronunciation guy. Anyway,
so
I'm assuming he's probably also not going to be anybody I'm going to find anything on.
Probably not. So in February of 1991, Icke traveled to Peru, where he had a revelatory experience in a circle of stones on a mound near the ruins of an Incan city. He heard voices and had the sensation of being flooded with energy and felt as though his consciousness had been irrevocably transformed, an experience that was again described in New Age terms as energy, chakras, and crystals. On returning to the UK in 1991, he undertook a number of press conferences and media appearances, most famously on the primetime BBC interview show Wogan in April of 1991. He was laughed at by the audience and mocked by the host, somewhat cruelly. Much of the controversy revolved around his statement that he was, quote, the Son of God, which the audience and the tabloid press took as Icke claiming he was Jesus.
Is that what he meant?
I'm not sure. Probably not literally.
Well, I mean, because technically we're all sons of God, sons and daughters of God.
Well, he was the Son of God, but he I don't think he meant it literally.
But I guess that isn't technically what we're referred to as, like, biblically. Biblically, we're sons of man. Way back in the episodes to the Nephilim.
Yeah, we're gonna get. I don't know if we get into Nephilim.
Sons of God are referring to angels and whatnot.
Okay. So he was really weird. During this time, he was in what he called the turquoise phase, where he only wore turquoise turtlenecks or shell suits.
Old fashioned. And this is the 90s?
This is 1991.
Whoa.
So he was laughed at on TV, but at this time he went on a talking tour around the country, and barely anyone attended, basically, at this point. He was just kind of at the very beginnings of his little mystic career here.
I mean, okay. There's There's just a lot to unpack right now, and I'm trying not to bog it down in areas where I shouldn't bog it down in. But man, there's a lot going on here.
I don't think there's anywhere where we're not really building up to anything here. We're just telling a story, basically.
This is a crazy story, first of all.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
I'm really trying.
Oh, go ahead.
Sounds like he had what?
I don't know, either a mental breakdown or some sort of experience with that psychic.
Well, yeah, there's something going on there. A lot of this stuff, for being aware of him, I was not aware of some of this stuff. Like the Son of God thing, I don't know. If he did that on TV, that's even weirder that I'm somehow not.
I knew that story because people had just assumed he had cracked because he just got fired from the sports broadcaster like a year before over like a tax thing. And then he comes out a year later and he's like, I'm the Son of God. And they're like, okay.
Well, I mean, that is quite a revelation for sure.
It's quite the big story.
And I feel like he wasn't doing himself any favors with the I know I don't want to make fun of him too much about the turquoise shell suit, but I feel like you had to know.
He had to know. Yeah, it's like,
I guess that's probably making yourself like memorable. I mean, probably what you're going for there.
Yeah, like a uniform or like like you're noticeable. Yeah, I think it might also had something to do with chakras and stuff. Like turquoise has a certain aura.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you know what? That's probably exactly what it is.
Yeah, I couldn't include everything, but if I remember correctly, that's more or less what it was.
Okay. I don't know.
So at this point, it's just all very spiritual. Yeah.
Wearing certain colors. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. Well,
still
can't wear like some. I'm gonna harp on this turquoise suit thing way too much.
It didn't last very long. He got.
You couldn't have like dyed some undergarments maybe that were turquoise, and that way they were against your body, and then you could look like a normal. I don't know. I don't want to tell the guy how to live his life.
It's the early '90s. Turquoise isn't that weird. People wore. I don't know.
That's true. All right. Like I said, I'm getting too bogged down on the suit. This guy has some very weird experiences, and that's the part that I'm getting hung up on. So
at this point, he's just like a spiritual guru. And interestingly, at this point, the seeds of his later conspiracism had already been planted. And he would talk about like governmental stuff. He'd say, when a child dies in the world of preventable disease, when the economic system must destroy the earth, when you see all the wars and when you see all the pain and when you see all the suffering, it is a force of love and wisdom and tolerance that is in control of this planet. Is it a force of love and wisdom and tolerance? And this is kind of the direction his work would increasingly take. Beginning in 1994 in his book, The Robot's Rebellion, Icke began to use conspiracy beliefs as a source of material, rather than channeled sources and theosophical text, connecting them into a meta-narrative concerning the enslavement of humanity by the Illuminati, who covertly rule the world by manipulating world events. Icke again alludes to his belief that it's the Illuminati who have prevented the arrival of the New Age. He said in one book, "This book is the story of a conspiracy to control the human race. That may sound fantastic to you at this stage, but read on and you will see it is very real and affecting your lives every day. It is, however, a conspiracy that we can and will dismantle. At the heart of this attack on human freedom is a desire to keep us from the knowledge of the spiritual realities of our true selves and the understanding of our place in this wondrous web of life called creation." Okay. So in his follow-up book, The Truth Shall Set You Free, developed what was only hinted at in Robot's Rebellion, that the power at the very top of the triangle is extraterrestrial, an idea that was not uncommon in the UFO and right-wing conspiracist milieu in this period. Nevertheless, the somewhat surprising development of this idea that Icke presented in his next major work, which is was his biggest book at the time, The Biggest Secret, placed him outside of the mainstream of both conspiracism and New Age thinking. In The Biggest Secret, he first presents what we'll refer to here as the Reptilian Thesis, the idea that the Illuminati are a race of extraterrestrial reptilians who assume human appearances, although originally from the stars such as Draco and Zeta Reticuli. They're also extra-dimensional, existing in a coexistent but less dense energy frequency. And that's where we get the reptilian hypothesis from. He just like slowly built up through the 90s.
Yeah, and this is something I've been poking around for a while, so I love that you're going to make us bite off at it.
We're getting into reptiles, folks. I love reptilian stuff. I think it's, I don't know, some of the best.
I've been trying to wrap my head around all of it. Pretty much most of the time we've been doing the show this year, I've like really been very hard at different research, and I'm not sure where I come down on all of it yet.
I don't know either, and I'm probably going to muddy the waters for you even more today.
Okay, well, it can't be any worse than what I'm already doing to myself, honestly. Like, I mean, anybody who's looked into this knows there is just so much information out there, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to try and process. How much of it is real? Is it all real?
They're also like, it's like a little bit of everything. Like it says, like they're from outer space, but they're interdimensional. But as you'll see, they're also kind of spiritual. Like it's just the whole, it's just and like everything.
The divergence between, are they actually the Illuminati? Or are they controlling the Illuminati? Like there's discrepancy in just even in that belief. Like,
oh yeah, yeah. Every time I thought I found like a thoroughfred, like a one thread, it would just fray off into like 6 different things, and that's the story of this.
So many nights, sir.
We just need to interview a reptilian, man. Can we get the Queen of England on the phone? Like,
I mean, if we could get in touch with them, that would probably clear a lot of stuff up.
So most of his writings on aliens reveal an homage to the, quote, ancient astronomer literature founded by the controversial cuneiform translator Zachariah Sitchin that finds in the text of the oldest extant creation story, the Mesopotamian Enuma Elish, reasons for suspecting that the extraterrestrial beings created humanity as a sort of primordial biotechnological experiment. According to both Sitchin and Icke, rather than humans evolving on their own accord, humans are in fact the result of a genetic experiment carried out by a race of reptilian aliens called the Anunnaki. And Anunnaki is like the Mesopotamian word for like their gods, basically. Yeah. So he identifies them as lizard people. In short, it's claimed that the Anunnaki produced humans as a slave race by intersplicing their genetic material with that of Homo erectus. While Icke draws upon Sitchin's ancient astronomer theory, he develops it in favor of his new age and conspiratorial agenda. Whereas Sitchin had hypothesized that the Anunnaki of the 12th planet came to Earth in order to mine its rich mineral base of gold and other precious metals.
Icke believes 12th planet, are we talking about
Nibiru?
Yeah, Nibiru. I was like, yeah. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes. So now, I mean, at this point, it's like, is there a 12th planet? Are they from a different star system? Are they interdimensional? I don't know. They're just from everywhere, man. Like, and I think
when you start getting out to that part, that's where it gets into it's kind of, how do you substantiate this at this point?
It just kind of is all over the place. Like,
yeah.
So as opposed,
and I'm not saying that I'm completely, I'm completely out on the 12th planet. I don't know. I hope it's.
I don't know. I just trying to report down the middle.
What I've read about it, it does not sound like it's going to be a good time when that thing shows up.
No, sir.
So
it also does barely. So as opposed to the whole gold thing, Icke believes that the Anunnaki reptoids desired to mine monoatomic gold. This mineral, I don't know what this mineral supposedly has the ability to increase the carrying capacity of the nervous system by 10,000 times. And so when ingested, the Anunnaki would be able to process vast amounts of information and accelerate transdimensional travel. And he also postulates that the Anunnaki live off human fear and anxiety. So
this is kind of Monsters, Inc. also.
Is that what Monsters, Inc. was about?
I mean, they scare kids. Yeah, they use fear as energy. The fear is like their electricity, like screams, basically.
It kind of is exactly like that then.
Oh. Well,
So, yeah. So he went from like New Age stuff to aliens, but then he basically took the stuff people had written about aliens and turned it into like New Age stuff. So,
well, I mean, on the one hand, this isn't necessarily in and of itself that isn't a bad thing. He's ingesting a bunch of information and putting it together. I mean,
right.
but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, Dave. With Dave with the turtlenecks. It's a lot, sir. Okay. So, in a sense, the reptilians are emotional vampires.
Okay.
Down through the ages, Icke believes that the Anunnaki have initiated numerous blood rituals and human sacrifices. During the rituals, human victims release large amounts of negative energy, which is then absorbed by the Anunnaki waiting in the fourth dimension, their preferred stomping ground. To quote Icke, thus we have the encouragement of wars, human genocide, the mass slaughter of animals, sexual perversions, which create highly charged negative energy, and black magic ritual and sacrifice, which takes place on a scale which will stagger those who have not studied the subject. So basically, he just blames nearly every bad thing that happens on Earth on these things influencing us so they can feed off us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now that the reptoids have a satisfactory labor force accounted for, Icke claims that the Anunnaki still face the problem of who would rule on Earth as overseers of their human slaves. Thus, Icke imagines that the Anunnaki interbred with other alien races to produce Earthling slave masters. Icke refers to these other extraterrestrials as the Nordics because of their blonde hair and blue eyes. The resulting super hybrids are none other than the Aryans. This strain of alien hybrids retains many of the central reptoid traits, including top-down control, emotionless, cold-blooded attitudes, and obsession with ritualistic behavior, and so on. So apparently when you cross a reptoid and a Nordic, you get an Aryan.
Oh, is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
I thought the Nordics were the Aryans.
So not in his world. So in his world,
okay, so Nordics is a separate race of alien.
Right. Kind of like, what was that guy you were talking about in the other episode? Or did we do an episode on that?
No, we haven't done that yet. I'm still
okay. Never mind.
That's why I'm like, oh, this is getting into a lot of stuff that I'm researching right now. The different races of aliens and stuff.
I'm kind of teeing up the ball here for you on a lot of your research.
A little bit. You are a little bit.
We're just skimming over all these little alien races.
You are, and I'm like, I'm just, yeah.
So apparently there's a Nordics. I was
not expecting all this.
We could just say the Nordics are exactly what you'd expect. They're like tall, blonde haired.
Like blonde, very, very blonde. Like,
yeah, from like Venus and stuff. And so apparently when a reptoid has relations with a Nordic, they create Aryans, which are exactly Nazis? It's exactly what you think. It's supposedly the race of people that were like, yeah.
All right. Well,
it's not the Nazis, but it's like whatever the Nazis thought were like the rulers back in ancient times. This like directly ties into like that type of mythology. I get what you're saying.
Eventually the Nazis are all about the area. I get it. Yeah, sorry.
These are like cold-blooded. They look like the Nordics, but they're like cold-blooded, calculated.
Sorry to all our Aryan listeners.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
My bad. That's my bad.
So this reptilian state of, you have a choice, I think. I don't know.
I don't know either. I just remember the Aryan race thing from the Nazis. That's where it was all coming from. So
I think this, from what I was reading, I could be wrong, and I believe we'll get into this in a minute, but I believe this directly gets into that. They're just like, oh, you know those people Hitler was talking about? That was these people.
Okay, cool.
So the reptilian state of consciousness, characteristic of the Aryans, is for Icke a lower level of development and spiritual evolution, and is directly related to fascist militarism, technocratic rationalism, and racism. Because of their close ties to the original Anunnaki, the Aryans can also shapeshift or transform themselves back and forth between human and animal bodies.
Oh, great.
And some can even control weaker human minds.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound good at all.
No, it sounds like werewolves and stuff, but
werewolves
vampires. It actually sounds like vampires.
Yeah, this all kind of sound like vampires.
So, mirroring a number of claims made by the political far right, Icke asserts a standard conspiracy culture line that the pure Aryan bloodline has ruled the planet throughout history, though he is unique in developing it as an exocultural direction. In Icke's mind, Aryan lizards have been from Sumerian kings, Egyptian pharaohs, and in more recent history, American presidents, British prime ministers. According to Icke, 43 American presidents, including George Washington and George W. Bush, are direct reptoid lineages descendants, and the Queen Mother herself was seriously reptilian. And by the way, I think this was written either in the Bush or Obama years. So he was saying either every single president or every president except for Obama was a reptoid.
Okay.
Oh,
that'd be weird if they'd all been reptoids and then Obama isn't a reptoid.
That's pretty odd. Sure. I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure this was pre-Obama. So I'm pretty sure this is just goes up to 43. So he's saying,
well, if they've all been reptoids, then Obama is also a reptoid.
Oh yeah, everyone's a reptoid.
Everyone's a reptoid.
And I know reptoid's not his word. You're not. I've never seen you transform into an animal.
If I can, I'm really wasting that ability.
I guess I'm wrong. They're not reptilians. They're Aryans. So they're all half reptilian, half Nordic.
Oh, that's what. Yeah. I don't think I'm Aryan either.
No, I don't think I am either. I don't think I got what it takes.
I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Man, I'm mad at my family if they pissed away our birthright.
I didn't see it on Ancestry.com, so I'm gonna go with that.
No, I'm gonna guess that we didn't. So Icke himself theorizes that such obscene acts as these typify the difference between alien kind and humanity, and that they're necessary, else the Aryan reptilians lose their temporary human form and revert to their original reptoid physiognomy. Again, following the prevailing exocultural explanation, Icke claims that in order to maintain their position of world domination down through the centuries, the Aryan lizards have created a society known as the Freemasons or Illuminati.
Or as we've come to research, both.
Yeah, they're the same. They're
the same thing at this point, in my mind. They really are. After everything we did on this show, just looking into them, yeah, I think.
And I know
they might have been they were their own things at one point, and the Illuminati, I think, mainly pushed its way in. I do think the Freemasons might have been floating in a direction, but I feel like the Illuminati came in and pushed it that way a lot harder. And that way is world domination and just evil stuff.
Right. And I know that we're kind of moving at our own pace, but that paragraph was referencing the one above the last one about Bush. And that was saying basically that they have to do these sacrifices and stuff to maintain their. So the Illuminati are the grand historic puppet masters presiding over all of human activities through indirect channels of control and manipulation. From the innermost secretive round table, a handful of reptilian masterminds directs the course of human events via a network of international organizations such as the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the IMF, World Bank, and the United Nations. The plan, quite simply, is to, quote, complete their financial control of the human race.
Well, I think they're about there.
Oh, yeah, we're totally done for.
If this is right, then yeah, we're
cooked. Those FEMA camps are gonna have some barbecues for us, man, because we're gonna get eat. We gonna get ate. Also, they're doing a really good job keeping us scared this year. If they really do eat fear.
Oh yeah, for sure. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, if that is true, man, they're sitting fat this year.
These reptilians
to go into some maybe they go into some hibernation from a little bit from overeating.
Oh, maybe that's when we get a break.
Maybe
that'd be nice.
That would we need a break. We really do.
A break from you lizard people. So
a break from 2020. Oh my god.
break from this world, man. Icke was quick to react to the events of September 11th, 2001, publishing on his blog that the attacks were orchestrated by reptilian-controlled U.S. government as a reason to further restrict the freedoms of the population and promote centralized government and war in the Middle East, which fitted neatly with what was quickly becoming the conspiracist consensus that the attacks were orchestrated from within the U.S. government, and this narrative spread beyond conspiracist circles.
At some point, we're gonna have to cover that.
Oh yeah, eventually. And this is kind of when I remember him starting to get like known, like around after 2001, because it was like his views were starting to collide with like some more mainstream, like,
yeah.
And he's not done with the spiritualism yet, because following a further channeled revelation in 2003 during an experiment with the South African hallucinogen ayahuasca, Icke's work entered a third phase, which attempted to reconcile his conspiracist and reptilian material with his theosophical beginnings. He returned to stressing that each human being and non-human being is part of one greater entity, part of one infinite consciousness, referred to as the infinite, the oneness, or the one. So in the end, therefore, it's not clear whether Icke is in fact suggesting that reptoids are simply psychic projections and that his numerous treatises are little more than an elaborate allegory, or if he actually believes that the reptoids do literally exist outside the human imagination. Things get even more complicated when he states, quote, "If the reptilians and other astral manipulators did not exist, we would have to invent them." Whatever the case may be, Icke is clear that liberation consists of understanding that humans and reptoids are ultimately one within a unified energy field, and that we must learn to love the abject, horrific, demonic other as part of our own humanity. Thus, his latest work ends by declaring that his future work will no longer take on the air of conspiratorial critique, but rather present solely a positive vision of multidimensional love. So Icke himself is saying we got to love these demonic alien things because we're all one thing.
Oh, well, you didn't need to clear that up, because I mean that was obviously super clear by everything you just said.
I know, and I did not know that. I don't know if he's been doing that. I don't know. I don't follow him close enough, but
so
that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, that was not. I was actually being sarcastic. That didn't make any sense until you summed that up. I was like, "What is he talking about right now?"
No, he
basically. I didn't completely get that. One with unified energy field, like,
and we're gonna get into this. So he believes that us and the reptoids and that all of us are all part of one field, and so the only way to get out of this is for all of us to remember, is to know that we're all part of one thing.
So basically the universe is all connected. We're all one thing. So you got to love these evil things so that we can all get along. But yet the evil things are feeding off of, because it'll starve them, maybe because they're feeding off of fear.
No, we gotta love them, man. We gotta learn to love them. Is where he was at this point.
This sounds more like an abusive spouse sort of situation where. No, I don't think you gotta learn to love them.
I think I might have later on. I go on my own theory of how I think he got here.
Okay. Again, I'm trying not to rush to judgment. Man, there's a lot more to this guy than I was aware of.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize how spiritual this stuff was. Number one, I thought he was just like, aliens are here, and then apparently we have to love them now.
I should have held my tongue when I acted like I knew who he was at the beginning, because I don't know him very well, apparently.
Of course, according to him, so in his world, we are part reptilian too. Because we're Homo erectus plus reptilian, and then our overlords are part reptilian plus the Nordics, which are just like better humans apparently. So I guess we are all kind of mixed. In his view, we're all kind of this mixed up family.
I mean, I guess, but it's a very extended family also. And
plus, there's been a lot of stuff going on in this family that I'm not comfortable with.
Also that, too. I don't feel like we're getting along at holidays. Like, none of that's happening.
No, they keep trying to feed off my fear. I don't like it. It's like that uncle at Thanksgiving that causes a war so you can feed off your fear. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
So, but I think you'll see here that this is more of there's a larger spiritual framework going on here that
It's an even bigger frame. Perfect.
I'm interested.
That's what we needed
is
more stuff going on here.
Well, I think we're close. I'll explain it when we get there. But so I'm going to introduce
we need to fully unpack this guy now. I'm just saying there's more.
Yeah, there's more.
He's like, wait, I got more stuff to say.
We'll get to okay, so I'm going to introduce the idea of a theodicy. So in Christian theology, a theodicy is essentially a response to the problem of evil, which is why it exists and why it seemingly is distributed unevenly. The problem of evil poses a considerable theological challenge in that the existence of evil proves apparently that there cannot be a good, because the presupposition that a good omnipotent thing exists and the evil exists or incompatible exists. Yeah, so it's just basically the idea of like, how can God's either all good or all powerful, and if he's all good and all powerful, how can there be evil? Because an all good, all powerful thing would stop all evil. So a theodicy is just the word Christians use for an explanation for that.
Okay.
So Christian theological responses have argued that evil is not a thing in and of itself, but is an absence of good. That evil is a necessary outcome in a cosmos which allows free will, or that we perceive as evil on our earthly individual level may be part of a necessary, if regrettable, course of action towards a greater good. But perhaps the simplest response, however, is to blame some reified opposition entity, the other. Icke's massive conspiracy project is an attempt to imagine an aesthetic capable of mapping the intersections between postmodern culture, capitalism, and transdimensional space. His theory is a significant condensation of all conspiracy theories into one colossal narrative that for Icke holds seemingly unlimited explanatory powers. There is an almost obsessive compulsive desire in Icke writing to ferret out the connections, produce narratives, and string together details, minutiae, to support his thesis. The iconic drama of the reptoid versus human battle for the fate of the planet in the work of David Icke speaks directly to these critiques of the liberal humanist tradition, though we want to argue that it does so ambiguously, containing both positive and negative elements of signification. In his figure of Aryan reptoid nobility, Icke conjures an image of the alien human animal hybrid as the ultimate representation of modern evil. The Reptilian Thesis introduces a theodicy into the New Age philosophy of a globalized extraterrestrial other. Icke's Reptilian Thesis seeks to portray the extraterrestrial as that which is literally alien in order to explain away the perceived failure of the New Age. By controlling the Illuminati bloodlines through interbreeding, the purported reptilian other operates within humanity and within human social structures. So, actually, this was a mashup of 3 papers, and all of them agree that basically what he's doing is he's forming a New Age religion, but he's giving it like he's trying to solve the problem of evil in the world using like New Age philosophy, basically. So he's giving it a story. He's like, well, why don't these crystals, like, why isn't all this modern stuff like working to make us feel better? And he's like, well, it's easy. We got these alien overlords, basically. They're controlling everything. And what's scary is apparently 12 million. I don't know if this is scary, but from what I can tell from many media outlets, at least as far as a few years ago, 12 million people believe this. And that's all adults. So that's pretty significant. That's bigger than a lot of churches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm with him all the way, but we're batting around. But again, he kind of goes at so many different things. It's kind of hard for him not to hit something that agrees with you on some level. If you're looking into this stuff at all and you're finding what we're finding, it's kind of hard not to see that.
Yeah.
So is that he's tuned into something, or is it that he's casted an extremely wide net?
Well, I had the same question.
It was kind of rhetorical. Like, I realized there's who knows.
I had that same question, and I realized though when I was wrapping up Icke stuff His most recent book, which is called Children of the Matrix, identifies the reptilians as what another group of people would call the Archons. And that other group of people are Gnostics.
Okay.
And if you think about it, it makes sense that he's basically preaching Gnosticism. So let's get into this and what this is. So Gnosticism, from the ancient Greek word gnosis, or having knowledge, is a collection of religious ideas and systems which originated in the first century Common Era among early Christian and Jewish sects. These various groups emphasize personal spiritual knowledge over the orthodox teachings of the church, viewing material existence as flawed or evil. Gnostic cosmogony generally presents a distinction between a supreme hidden God and a malevolent lesser deity, sometimes known as Yahweh from the Old Testament, who is responsible for creating the material universe. So do you remember how he said earlier, he said that there's one hidden like love? If we get into this, like Icke believes that there is like this one kind of hidden deity that is love, and that, okay, so he identifies the reptilians as archons. So in Gnosticism, the archons, which is Greek for ruler, were malevolent, sadistic beings who controlled the earth, as well as their thoughts, feelings, and actions of humans. They assisted their master, the demiurge, with the creation of the world and continued to help him administer his oppressive rule. According to the Gnostic text called The Reality of Archons, which is from 300 AD or older, the Archons are a bumbling, conceited oafs. They issue sanctimonious commands, and they themselves don't understand. They huff and puff like stormy winds into the inanimate and Adam's face in a failed attempt to bring him to life, think they're raping Eve when they're really raping an empty image of her, and have to call out to Adam and Eve to find them after Adam and Eve had hidden from them. So, oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
So far the similarities are that he shares the belief that there's like a hidden God. He shares the belief that whatever the rulers are of like our seeable universe are these archons that like control our thoughts, which would basically be the same as these reptoids, as these reptilians. And he also, the Gnostics believe that the archons were the ones who like created man, just like he believes the reptilians did, and basically institute like early religions and stuff, so like early power structures.
Okay.
But it's like kind of inherently anti-Christian because like their whole idea was that what we call Yahweh is like the evil God.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah. So I went and dug up this book that's online that is bonkers that we got to do another show on. It's a variety of people being interviewed about Gnosticism, as well as like some unnamed sources describing kind of what modern Gnostics believe from like their ancient texts and stuff. It's called Archons, Hidden Rulers of the Ages.
That's a title.
I got some quotes from it that kind of go into what Gnostics believe that I thought was an interesting comparison to some of the stuff Icke says. So Gnostics believed that in the beginning there was an unknowable, immaterial, and invisible God, sometimes called the Father of all and sometimes by other names. He was neither male nor female and was composed of an implicitly finite amount of living non-physical substance. Surrounding this God was an empty region called the fullness. Beyond the fullness lay empty space. The God acted to fill the fullness through a series of emanations, a squeezing off of small portions of its non-physical, energetic, divine material.
Okay.
And so we're all part of this.
It's pulling off little bits of its God juice that isn't really a physical thing. Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah. So, well, it has parts. it's like this God that's only so big, and he's like, here's a little bit of me, here's a little bit of me, here's a little bit of me. Okay. So these emanations that he's like shooting out, so everything's made of God. So it's kind of the David Icke's oneness idea. These emanations are called aeons or eternities, and are mostly named personifications in Greek of abstract ideas. The common outcome of the myth rests on the 13th emanation of or ion named Sophia. This is both the Greek word for wisdom and also a woman's name. So Sophia becomes jealous of the power of the Father of all to create. So without permission of her consort, the other of her matching pair, she gives birth or otherwise creates an offspring, and it proves to be monstrous, with the head of a lion and the body of a certain serpent. She names him Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth. Yabba-dabba-dabba-doo. Ashamed of her progeny, Sophia takes Yabaoth outside of the fullness and hides him in a cloud, which would just be empty space at this point. There he matures alone, having no knowledge of his origins. Imbued from birth with a portion of the divine material he inherited from his mother, Yaldabaoth, now given the title Demiurge, or Greek for craftsman, creates a dozen archons, or commanders. And then, in a mirror image of the great emanations of the fullness, hundreds of lesser angels, Yaldabaoth then creates the cosmos, understood to mean not the entire universe as in the modern usage, but the known planets. And these are the moon, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the zodiac of visible stars. Yaldabaoth then creates the Garden of Eden, not on Earth as in Genesis, but at the level of the stars. He cruelly tells his human captives not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In some versions, for example, in the hypostasis of the archons, among the Nag Hammadi texts, which are some ancient Gnostic texts, the serpent is the agent of Sophia, urging Adam and Eve. So the serpent's the agent of wisdom, urging Adam and Eve to disobey. In the more Christianized accounts, it is Christ who comes to the garden to warn Adam and Eve of the demiurge's plan to enslave them in a deadening manner.
I don't. Okay. Oh, and the more Christianized of the Gnostic accounts. Okay. I'm like, I have never heard that before.
As this is, and this is just the best I could do summarizing this, as must be clear by now.
No, you're doing good. I'm following you.
Okay, so
it's baffling.
It is.
Somebody said this,
and this is streamlined. So as must be clear by now, Yaldabaoth is known by Jews and Christians as Jehovah, or just as God. So our God is an evil God, and he doesn't know. I actually heard Alex Jones say one time, the one thing God doesn't know is where he came from. And that's basically this idea, is that our God doesn't know. He actually comes from a higher God, but he doesn't know that because he was abandoned as a child. So finally, the role of a savior, even in the later documents, when this is mostly Jesus, is not to die for people's sin. Sin has little to do with Gnostic vision, particularly the peculiar Christian concept of original sin borne by every human. The savior figures in Gnosticism is to try to wake people up from the deadening effect of being encased in matter and prepare them for the arduous, non-material individual flight through the cosmos after death to try to reach the fullness and reemerge their divine spark with the main mass located there. Oh my God.
Okay. And how are they? I mean, I know you're not going to have an answer, but I'm curious how they're preparing people to do that.
Secret knowledge. You have to realize what's going on. So you have
and
to
that'll
realize,
make it so you can get to this place and get to this main thing because you know that it's happening.
It's the same idea. It's the same thing Ike's saying. So you basically have to wake up to the fact that you're part of the spark, just like the evil archons. They're lying to you, and through this secret knowledge, you will basically set yourself free from their lies. And so they believe all this stuff, that the archons, it's very similar to what he believes with the reptilians, that they use like media and implants to like put false history into us. as part of this text. They believe that the crucifixion itself was some sort of like holographic implant in our brains, but also that it really happened, but it happened in space, basically. And there's a dog barking.
There is a dog barking.
We're on to something. And Icke himself, actually, in an interview, said that he believes that Christianity is true in a sense, but he believes that Jesus is a symbol of the sun, which is one of the archons. And as much, like many of the heavenly bodies and astrology are identified as being archons. So he kind of taps into this. So the other similarities include the fact that these archons have the ability to duplicate reality to fool us. They're jealous of us, and they're interested in our soul, which we've talked about in past episodes that reptilians are.
Well, with aliens just in general, something being interested in trying to take souls or barter for souls in some way.
It's okay. We're just gonna press on. I apologize for the dog. And in the Nag Hammadi text, which again are ancient, one archon looks like a reptile, and another looks like a uniformed baby or fetus. Which, if that sounds familiar, that's a gray, basically.
Yeah.
The uniform baby or fetus is described as partially living and partially non-living. It has gray skin and dark, unmoving eyes. The archons are duplicating reality so that when we buy into it, we come to believe that the duplicated false state of reality is the real reality. And then they become the victors. Oh boy. So this is, I can't stress enough how close this is to what Icke's saying. He's saying that basically the entire media and history is this giant lie, and that when you buy into it, you feed into like feeding their fear factory. And also it is common among people who believe in these archons that they feed off like negative emotions, fear, and all this stuff. And they basically have orchestrated this world. And the big end game, or the evil thing for the Nag Hammadi demiurge, which is the Christian god, is what they call the Palestinian Redeemer complex, which has 4 elements. 1, that the universe was exclusive creation of the parental god figure. 2, that he has chosen to be represented by a certain people on earth. 3, that he's going to send his Messiah to help the chosen people implement a final program for humanity. And 4, that he plans an apocalyptic judgment day for everyone, including those who followed his planned orders. As one can see, the father god tactics of the demiurge or archontic mindset is one of a controlling and punishing way if you don't obey, and you will be punished, and bad things will happen to you if you don't believe or have blind faith in the program of salvation. So I just thought I'd open this up for discussion. I think
which part?
I think Ike's selling this idea basically because he identifies Jesus as an archon, basically, as representing the sun. He identifies the Anunnaki, the creators of humanity, as these reptilians who are, this is more scientific language, but these Gnostics like literally believe that not only are these things interdimensional or like heavenly, but like they're literally in heaven. Like in this document I was reading, like they say that they tend to group out by Saturn. That's like their heaven is like literally the heavens. It's just very similar. And the fact that he calls them archons is what struck me. I'm going to have to read his Matrix book, but from what I could read, it's literally Gnosticism. He says that we're living in this false reality with media and stuff, and its only way to escape is by realizing we're being lied to by these things, and that we have to reunite with this one source it's basically the Matrix, man.
I was going to say, this really sounds like whoever wrote the Matrix heard about this and was like, oh, that's a movie.
I think they were heavily influenced by this Gnosticism idea, but I didn't. Here's why I went down this rabbit hole where I was stuck at. I was like, okay, how do we plug this into our beliefs, right? Because if they, okay, so let's say the reptilians really are bringing in like a fake into the world or whatever. Okay, so then they're going to, but they're trying to get us into, but are they also trying to get us into Gnosticism? You see what I'm saying? Or is there going to be like covert Jesus, then there's another covert Jesus, and then real Jesus? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just all kinds of mixed up. Like, they're telling us the Bible's a lie, so that makes sense. So, like, their Jesus, I guess, is going to say, that's the fake one. You have to believe in this oneness or whatever, and there is no.
Well, that sounds like the Antichrist.
Right. So this sounds like more Antichrist stuff. I guess it's not that hard to plug it in.
I was gonna say that's exactly how this plugs in for me anyway. If you're trying to connect it to a Christian set of beliefs, essentially, that's what he sounds like is going to happen. Like they're gonna say that the Jesus that Christians believe in was this foe, and that this is the real one, and this is what's really going on, and these things are the gods, when really those things are, if you're gonna go full on with it, demons.
Well, that's the thing. So, but that's the thing is it. That's where I get tripped up, because the reptilians are both the agents of the fake god, which is the real god, but they're also the thing that we're going to be encouraged to meld with.
Yeah, those ideas kind of are a little confusing.
Right. It's like they're going to be like, whoops.
Well, I would almost be curious, because the way his ideas have like developed, is that something like how do these all fit together for him now? I guess would really be the question.
We might have to
almost be different phases of his thinking.
Right. Well, I would predict that he's going to want us to basically commune with these archons.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
In order to escape the program, basically.
Yes.
But in reality, you would just be doing nothing but setting up shop with demons.
I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like, or at a bare minimum, some sort of alien. That's
right.
Doesn't
which is the same thing
at all.
I mean, in this view, an alien and a demon are literally the same thing. In Gnosticism.
From just this point of view, like I was more just talking about, I'm framing it in the way I'm thinking about it at the same time.
Right.
Is what's happening.
Right.
But yeah, it's
I know
kind of a mess. Like,
it's a total mess, dude. I don't know.
And there's so much, like, I feel like I've read a lot of stuff from him about different things. I don't know. I was not aware of the heavy spiritual side.
I wasn't either.
And this weird tie to Gnosticism. Like, that may be the most unexpected thing surprise I've gotten out of this episode, honestly.
Well, yeah, it's his weird Matrix book that kind of tilts it that way. And I guess we could do more on him and like where he's at today.
I feel like he's going to come back up again in this show.
Oh yeah. I don't think we're going to be able to escape him, not especially with the research you're doing, but
yeah, I was going to say, with the stuff I'm working on different alien races and their influence and interaction with Earth and humans. Yeah, he's probably going to come up again. He's a very dominant figure in all this.
But I'm on a trail here. Basically, I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell a story of David Icke. I thought I knew it pretty well. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is weird. I didn't know he was like,
no, I really like this. This is the first time we've focused on the paranormal, or whatever you want to call him, researcher, as opposed to the research itself, I feel like.
Yeah.
Man, he's an interesting guy at no matter what you think about him. This dude's lived an interesting life.
Yeah, he lived an interesting life.
I mean, he was born in the 50s, so he's like in his 60s now.
Well, he'd be in his 70s now. Well, let me see when he was born here.
I guess
he was born in 1952, so he'd be 68.
Yep.
But he's been doing this since 1991, so he's spent over half his close. No, he hadn't. He spent the first 38 years of his life being successful sports, politics, broadcaster guy.
Yeah, I mean.
Then he spent the next 30 years doing this. I mean, I'd like to interview the guy, honestly.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
And I was my own thing there with the Archons and stuff. Like, I'm going to do more research into like his latest stuff. But I saw a huge thread there and I was like, hold on a second. And then, of course, I chose the weirdest Gnostic thing to get into. But
No,
I
do feel like this is a good table setting for a lot of different stuff, though.
It's a good
But
taste
man,
tester.
interesting guy. I had no idea. I mean, I knew he was interesting, just not to this level.
No,
Whew.
I know. Well, there you have it. There's David
I feel
Icke,
like
New Age Gnosticism.
I'm gonna come back. Like, this is gonna keep on going through my head. Like, after we stop the show, and I'm gonna like I'm unpacking this. We're gonna have to talk about it again because I feel like there's a lot to process here. So good luck to everybody listening. Whoa.
Yeah, good luck. And this is one of those where you might want to check out links because I wasn't sure because I've been kicking this around for 24 hours if these two things really meshed. And the more I think about it, they do mesh.
No, they do.
It just gets more and more. It
makes
the
it
internal
weirder.
logic.
It brought a whole nother level of weird to the whole thing.
And I want to do another episode on Gnosticism itself because like I realized they thought there was like two gods and stuff, but I didn't realize their whole connection to like space. Like they literally are just like, oh, they're just like us, but they live in space. And that's like the second heavens. Like they're literally just describing what we would call aliens. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. There's a lot of stuff in this, Dennis. You put together a very interesting episode for sure.
Thanks, bro.
I enjoyed it. We're gonna come back to
secret attic lair this week.
Yeah, you do look like you're kind of Anne Franken it a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's.
There were dogs barking at one point.
Yeah, luckily I had to quiet down for that section. So
well, obviously, I mean they got close. They almost found you.
Yeah, it must have been a neighbor's dog actually, because these dogs don't bark. But it might have been. Anyway, well, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope that wasn't too distracting. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe. And by share, I mean share, man. Just like tell people about it. Just be like, hey, tune into this one. If you had a favorite one, definitely go back and listen to the Mars 1 million BC from last week.
The 1984 exploration of Mars, last episode.
Yeah, that one was freaking bonkers. I can't stop thinking about that one.
Oh man, I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah,
I've thought about it a lot.
I want to know more about these ancient Martians, man. I want to. God, there's so much from the last couple of weeks. Every time we delve into this whole like how spirituality like melds with aliens thing, it's just like, ugh. There's so much. There's just so much.
There really is.
Yeah, it freaks me out too. I'm like, oh no, am I gonna think the wrong thought, then get like haunted by a reptilian? Like, I just don't.
That's very possible. We're probably treading very close to a line.
Yeah, it's super. I don't know. It's really. I figured I could just like did some research, and he gets us the research. I didn't expect it was through like visions and stuff, but
yeah.
Eventually, I went to talk to the man. I should probably read a couple of his books first, but well, thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together, man.
No problem. We'll see you next week. Take care. Be safe.
Love you. Bye.